Welcome, everyone. I feel very privileged that we've got bums on seats when it is prime festive drinks party time. So I'm so pleased that they're here doing a festive drinks party with us afterwards. So do stick around. And what's so great is it's audience participation, please. So we look forward to you raising your hands after I've had the great joy of speaking with Ami myself at length. But Ami, you have built not one, but two significant cybersecurity, cloud-focused sort of companies. And I really want to understand how you're rethinking security this time, because Wiz is kind of gamifying, you're making things, dare I say it, sexy in the world of cybersecurity. So how do you think about revolutionizing the world of cybersecurity right now?
So, first of all, very excited to be here. I think when we look at security, many times you think about basically, especially if you're an engineer, a developer, what do you want to do? You wake up in the morning and you want to do security? No, you want to build stuff, right? I mean, you want to build a new feature, you want to work with your customers. Many times what happens, and that's a core problem in our industry, is that security is basically the thing I don't want to do. Right? Someone chases me and they make me do it, but actually I don't want to do security, I want to build stuff, right? So people feel like that security is basically, first of all, they don't feel ownership of security.
Right.
Okay? They feel there is a team, there's the security team, it's an annoying team, and they chase them to do annoying stuff, right? So what we're trying to do is, first of all, change the core way that you feel about security. Where the way you should feel about it is that, first of all, it starts with trust, right? Like, you should feel, I built something and I own it. Just like I own the cost, right? If I build a very big database and I don't use it and I will have to pay for it, same goes for security, I own it. And the way you should approach security is to say, okay, I own my security, and actually the goal of the security team, security tools, is to help me actually focus my efforts on doing things that are really important. And what Wiz is trying to change in the game is to build a security platform that every engineer actually feels trust, that feels ownership, because he actually gets really clear explanation of why is it important to fix this issue.
And how are you signaling and building that trust that there's something wrong here? You could fix it. It's not over to another team.
So a lot of what we do is understanding that it's basically simplifying complexity, right? So everything is complex. The cloud is very complicated. There's thousands of new services, technologies that come out every day. I mean, we talk about AI revolution. AI revolution for me is just hundreds of new services every day that we have to secure. So the world is moving very fast. It's very complicated. The risks are very complicated, both for the engineers, by the way, also for the security team. So simplifying complexity is a game changer. If you can understand something so well that you can simplify it, right? It means that you can change the game, because then it also, if I'm an engineer, I'm not from the security team, I understand what I have to do. So the Wiz approach is, okay, how do I simplify all of this complexity of security and attacks and basically simplify it to a single task that, for me as an engineer that owns an application, I understand exactly what I need to do. And that's basically behind the scenes, we've built something that, it's very easy to deploy, because in security, time to value makes a huge difference. Because you don't wake up in the morning and want to do security, right? What if there's a tool that the time to value is so great that you don't have to waste time. You just immediately get value, and this value gives you very clear indication of what you need to do. It changes the core thing about security, which is I understand what I need to do.
Well, I mean, as I alluded to, this ain't your first rodeo. For those that must know Wiz, it is such an iconic startup in the ecosystem of New York City, and ultimately you came from Adalom. You'd built a cybersecurity cloud cyber company before. You'd sold it to Microsoft. You were doing it again. Why hadn't this been fixed? Why hadn't, in your previous iterations, or why hadn't other people out there thought, you know what? Let's make it fun. Let's make ownership and trust integral to cybersecurity. So
I mean, it's a good question. We started in 2020. Today, Wiz is just 4 years old. It's the fastest growing cybersecurity.
Peak COVID, like January 2020.
You're right. It was just we started just before COVID. I mean, the first customer meetings were supposed to be in RSA conference 2020, where basically in the second day, we were supposed to meet some first customers. There was emergency state declared in the state of California, and basically everyone ran home. And all of our plans of building, we thought we were building something completely different, right? But no one wanted to speak about like something futuristic when the
worrying about today.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like we knew exactly where we are, what we were going to solve. It's not like that. The startups don't work like that. We usually, I say, innovation actually comes from stress. We left Microsoft. We already raised a lot of money, and we needed to find something to do. And COVID just hit, and world changing, and we said, oh my God, what have we done? It's really not the worst time to start a company. So really, that was
go back a bit. So you'd already raised money. So
yes.
What people knew that this founding team that had built something so great and had gone into Microsoft was itching to do something else, and they came and found you.
Yeah, it's not just people. I mean, we are lucky that we actually have investors that are working with us since 2012, since the Adalom days. It's the same investors. We've been working with them closely through the Microsoft days.
Who are they?
For us, if I go back to Adalom, the first investors we had, Index, Shardul, I think was even on this forum last year. We had Sequoia, and we had Gili, who's now CyberStarts. Basically, investors that know us for many years, going back. And when you sell a startup, so we joined Microsoft, but the story doesn't end when you sell it, right? For me, I mean, it's just the beginning. You want to have the companies be successful. The customers that you worked with in 2012 are the customers that we work now with them in 2020, right? Like, if you think about it, security is a small industry. You play the long game, right? I always tell that also when we work with our customers. When you sell something to a customer, it's not just about the sale, right? It's actually, this is our life. I mean, this is our career.
About protecting them for quite a long time.
Yeah, and you will be seeing them in 10 years now. So you want to actually create trust. It's all about trust. And Wiz is all about trust also within the company, but it's also how we operate, right? So we were lucky in 2020 where we said, okay, we want to start something new. We didn't actually go and pitch to investors. We had investors that knew us for a very long time, and it was obvious that we would start working with them initially. But we thought, oh, great, we had amazing years in Microsoft. Now it's a great time to start a company. And then a month later, everything blew up, and we thought that the world is over, and we had to go back, and we were locked down, and we said, oh my God, what have we done? That was, and basically at that point, we thought, okay, what are we going to do? And if you go back to, okay, how did we come to build Wiz? Sometimes the simple solutions that you go back and say, this is so trivial, it's not so trivial. It's only in hindsight, it's very trivial, So today, yes, if I look back, I say, my God, it's so trivial. What Wiz is doing is obvious. I think now the industry is expecting vendors to not show them 1 million alerts. We're making a difference. We say, no, a security vendor should take ownership and say, you know what? Yeah, you do have 1 million vulnerabilities, but I don't think you should fix all of them. Let's be honest. No one's going to fix all of the vulnerabilities. Let's say the truth. It's not realistic. So I will tell you only 10 things to fix, but really these are important ones because this is a window that the attacker can really get from. So you see, it's a mindset change. We are also taking responsibility here. We're saying, don't fix everything, just focus on this, right? So I think this mindset is a mindset that we're trying to make across the industry.
Yeah.
You don't have to fix everything. No one can fix everything. Let's be honest about it. Let's focus on what's really important, but really fix it, And that changes the entire approach.
I'm going to let you take a sip of your drink because people in the audience are entrepreneurs or they are learning and deeply involved in the world of technology and cyber. So we can get a bit more nitty-gritty. How are you ultimately finding and layering the top 10 that you must go and target? How is the technology that you've built being able to prioritize and look at things differently?
So first of all, I must say it was pretty frightening for us.
Yeah.
We stepped into a market that already had hundreds of companies. So cloud security is a market that exists since, 2010, right? So we are in 2020. you want to start a company, usually you don't go into an existing market. It's very scary because there is no chance for you, right? You're going to go to a big company. They will tell you, come on, I mean, there's big companies selling this product. There's no chance you will be able to sell anything.
And that's as experienced entrepreneurs who already built a successful company. So the fact that you're insecure is
it was very scary. It was very scary for us. But what we said is we believe we can do something fundamentally different, right? And it's rare to find like a position where you can say, you know what, everything that everyone did so far is just not good. Right? It's not good, and we can do something fundamentally different, come from a fundamentally different approach. Now, specifically in Wiz, what we've done is we said the following. You had a lot of different products in security to analyze risk. But the problem is that each team is using a different product, right? So I can give you an example on this building, right? I mean, you can have a team that works on securing the windows, and a team that secures the doors, and a team that secures the elevators, right? But actually, what you really care about is not the window in the 22nd floor, right? Because no one is going to understand. Like,
no Spider-Man, sadly, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But most of the tools, they don't know it's the 22nd floor. They just look at windows, right? So what we've done is we've built a tool actually understands what we call the context. Basically understands, wait, this is 22nd floor. It's probably no one is going to come from here. So I don't care if there's a window here, right? It's important. But you know what? This door actually leads to a specific staircase that you can actually come from the street, so we should really take care of that, right? It changes the game, and yeah, it sort of combines a lot of different security products, right. But it's actually about how you mesh all of them together to a view that everyone said, you know what, you're right, I really have to fix this door because, you know, from the street you can go up to here, and this from here we can get to the safe, right? Now, even a developer, when they see this, they will say, you're right, you know what, I have to fix it, because even though we all want to build features, right? If you show me something that actually makes sense, I will want to fix it. I will actually not go to sleep at night until I fix it, because no one actually wants to be exposed to a real threat.
And you're giving them ownership. Ultimately, you're saying this is on you and your code.
Once you give them a view that they trust, then ownership becomes trivial. And by the way, ownership is not just something that is, you know, cool. It's like there is no other way, because security is outnumbered. It used to be 100 to 1, but I think now because of AI and everything, everyone becomes a builder. It's going to be soon 1 to 1,000. Okay, mm-hmm. Security is outnumbered. There is no way. There is no other way than people owning security of what they build. There's no other way, and that's why our mission is to democratize security, make it very, very clear to everyone. If you build something, what you have to fix, because the security team is too small and they will never be able to be in the right place in the right time to tell you what you need to do.
So you're selling into a CISO of a business, and they're then, how are they winning hearts and minds of all the people that they employ? Is it just putting it into their hands, and everyone by osmosis is like, this is fantastic, and I'm going to go and preach it to everyone else?
So that is part of the magic, right? So you're right. I mean, you go to the CISO, but how do you make everyone use it? I mean, that's one of the core problems of security. So what we've done is we talk about time to value. So the idea was this. You deploy it using the security team. But then if the results are good enough, then everyone actually wants to see them and start fixing them. And we have this process that we call democratization, but it's really changing the basic dynamics of security, where we say, no, wait, don't actually, because security teams usually what they do is they find a problem and they start emailing everyone. Fix this, fix this. No, don't do that. Let's think about who should own every piece of this. Let's break the environment to the different owners and give them access. You will see they will start fixing it because they will see it's real and they will fix it. And when they do it, they see it, right?
Almost open sourcing it.
It's basically giving them ownership, because the way I see it is that, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. Cloud gives you power. You can create anything you want, right? But you should also own your security. And this is a different mindset. It's a different mindset. We have to make everyone change the way they think. If you create everything on your own in the cloud, you should also own your security. Don't expect someone else to come and tell you what you need to do. And this democratization, this process, is what lights everything up in a company. So with deploy, you see the problems, but you don't start fixing them. Don't do that. Actually break your company to owners, and they will come and they will fix. Because if you show them the right data, if they trust it, everyone wants, there's no one that actually sees a real problem and doesn't want to fix it.
Your CTO, is that the first principles that you bring internally as well? How are you thinking about breaking down the silos between your own team?
So it's a good point. And I would say, so I'm CTO, and in general, many times I get asked, okay, so what's your actual role? What do you do? And it's a good point. I mean, CTO is not a well-defined role because I'm not actually the one that builds anything, okay? I'm not actually the one that, even defines the product because there's a product team. So what does the CTO does and what does the CTO team actually do? So the way I see it is that there is organization. The organization has a structure. But org structures also create blind spots, right? So for me, the core goal of a CTO organization is to be an org that doesn't care about the org structure, right? Because if everyone cares about org structures, then by definition, you start seeing silos, right? And for me, the core goal of a CTO team is to do not care about org structures, right? And by the way, you're right. I mean, that's part of what Wiz tries to do as a product because there's also different security teams. And what we say is that also the attacker doesn't care about your org structure. And we're trying to break the silos between the teams, right? If we talked about the Windows security and the door security, they should actually talk together because the real threat is a combination. And we try to connect the dots between the teams. That's so important because every team sees their own view. If we're not connecting the dots, we're not efficiently handling the threats that we have.
How do you do that, practically speaking, in your own company?
So it starts, and just exactly like security, it starts from people and it starts from culture, right? It really is like, and security is also about people, and CTO org is also about people. Eventually, it's not about the technology. Technology can enable stuff to happen, and can make it easier. But it actually goes back to culture. Everything is about culture. You need to have a culture where people take ownership. For a CTO org, we need to have a culture of actually sharing information across teams, right? Yeah. This is a culture, like in Wiz, for example, from a technical perspective, we have basically, we're trying to make sure that technically we don't create different silos of knowledge. So all of the teams, when they have a question, they go to a single channel when they ask the question across all teams, right? It is a culture decision.
But like everyone seeing each other's emails.
Exactly. We actually don't use emails.
Oh, everything at all?
At all. Yeah, because that's part of the culture, right? Because emails are not inclusive.
So on one ongoing sort of Slack channel that you've
We have hundreds of them, right, per topic, but they're not org structure based, you see? It's not, that's
Everyone's got access.
Yeah, so you try to break all the time the org structure and try to think outside of the org structure. And that also what Wiz tries to do, to break the silos between the org structures, to have a way to communicate across the teams. That's so important. Otherwise, we argue because each of us sees a different view, right? And that's what we're trying to change.
Part of your role, I believe, is that you've taken on board to the R&D side of things, which makes sense to me as the Chief Technology Officer. You're trying to develop the technologies. That actually has got, again, a very non-silo, kind of open source. You're actually writing these thought leadership pieces and putting them out outside of Wiz as well, right? Can you talk to us about why you did that?
So in Wiz, we have the engineering team, right? What we have under the CTO is the research team. Now, the goal of the research team is to try, because we talk about a revolution we're trying to do. We're trying to change security. How do you change security? It's not just it's not about a product, right? It's about a culture. It's about how you operate. So the research team tries to create concepts of how you're supposed to secure a cloud environment, how you're supposed to operate. If we are talking about like a new operating system for security, right? If we're saying that the way that a security team works is not by owning everything, right? Mm-hmm. It's by cooperating with other teams, is by actually gamifying, right? Mm-hmm. Gamifying security across the different owners, right? This concept of trying to do differently, we have to also explain that to the industry because I feel like it's much more than Wiz. It's really about like, if this is a new way, we need to show the industry risks that the existing cloud that you need to know about, but also different ways that you can actually build now. If you're a new company or trying to modernize your security strategy, how should you build your security strategy for cloud? Why is it different than it used to be? And how we should operate, right? If this is like a completely new way, completely new, by the way, a new profession. If I was a security person 10 years ago, my focus was on probably managing firewalls. if I'm a security person right now, there's almost zero connection between knowledge about managing networks and firewalls to the knowledge you need to have today, which is understanding cloud technologies, working with developers. It's like we didn't notice it, but when you moved to cloud, everything about security changed. Everything, you have to retrain everyone to think differently, to operate differently. You need new types of knowledge. This is part of why also Wiz grows, is because we understand that cloud makes everything you've done in security, right, different.
And then add in generative AI, and is that a whole nother learning curve?
Exactly. So the way we see it, AI for me, from a Wiz side, AI eventually is a cloud service. AI lives in the cloud, right? I mean, there is
I'll have edge, but like ultimately it's
most of AI. When we say that, hey, I'm trying this new AI service, it's in the cloud. It's a cloud service, and we, by the way, see it like almost in more than 70% of our customer cloud environments. We see AI services, right? The growth is unbelievable. So the growth, when we say that the number of technologies grows exponentially, and there's no way that a security team can even know what's happening in their environment because they're outnumbered 1 to 100, maybe 1 to 200, 300 soon, right? It's because of those technologies, and AI is just another example. Data explosion, AI explosion, but it all comes to the same problem. I, as a security team, want to enable my users to use all of those technologies, but on the other hand, I'm frightened that something will happen. How am I supposed? This is like almost an impossible task, if we just say the truth, for security teams. How can I enable everyone to move fast in the speed of cloud and speed of AI and still make sure that everything is also okay, right? You cannot lock down everything, but you don't want to risk the company. And also, the real answer is that you also can't own everything, right? You need your users to own the things they do, and the platforms of security, their goal is to enable the security, to empower them, to show their end user what's the current state. Developer, by the way, if you think about AI enables almost everyone to become a developer.
Yeah.
And that's why, for me, from a security perspective, I'm thinking, oh my God, I was 1 to 100. Now I'm going to be 1 to 1,000. It's like if we don't change perception quickly in security, we'll just be outrun. It's just like no way. You cannot continue to do what you've done. Think about it. 10 years ago, you had a data center. You could control it from one single point. Okay. Now everyone becoming developers. Oh yeah, I just used AI and I built this app and now it's working in our production. What? You see, like security teams are chasing something. There's no way for them to chase. Like it's really, think about what it means to be in security today. It's like it's a really hard task, right? So what we're trying to do is to level the playing field, to give everyone visibility of what's the current state, whatever technology you use. So we have to run fast in Wiz to be able to cover all those technologies.
I mean, push us forward. If I'm suddenly 2025, 2026, through the joy of natural language processing, I'm able to code an app.
Yeah,
how are you telling me that I'm then the person who has to start? How are you going to market to me if it's, because the CISO is not, I mean, what, they're just going to go to absolutely everyone in the entire industry?
So sometimes I compare it to, again, if we talked about buildings, so think about the process of inspecting a building, right? So in New York, you want to build a building, you will go through years of regulation, right?
I mean, my building's had the cover around it for about a decade.
Exactly. Now, what if someone invented a technology that allows you to build a building in an hour, not in a few years? You agree that all of the processes of regulation, like you schedule a meeting, by the time after a few months it comes to actually visit the building, you say, come on, like this building existed for 1 hour and doesn't exist anymore. You have to completely rethink how you do regulation for buildings, right? Like think about it, but that's what's happening now in code. Like everything the way they work doesn't make any sense anymore. You have to make it different. Like if it was a building, maybe you have to build sort of like a technology that automatically analyzes a building using like some kind of like futuristic MRI, right? We give you automatic score all the time, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do in cloud. Like whatever you build in real time, when you build it, they'll show you all of the risks and you have to fix them as you build them. Like it's like a completely new approach. You cannot continue to work manually because it just doesn't make any sense. Now, it's actually not just about technology. It's just about like if you don't change the way you operate, then you will become not relevant.
How do you price that?
So, so thankfully, that's not my role. I think eventually, the way I see it is this. If you think about a company, Wiz is just an example. What does Wiz has, right? So we have people, and we have cloud. Like everything in Wiz, we have buildings, but like in our offices, I mean, there's nothing, right? So basically, all of Wiz is in the cloud, right? Our IP, our data, our product, everything is in the cloud. So first of all, probably majority of my security budget is going to go to securing the cloud, right? Now, how much what's the pricing? Eventually, usually people say that you have you should put around 5% of your investment in security, right? But so that's like the way I approach it.
It's rather small, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's small. It's only 5%. But that's also if we look at the potential and the importance of what we do. The way I see it is that most of security used to be around endpoints and network, but over time, as everything moves to cloud and AI, the largest and most important decision and budget and strategy is about how I'm building my cloud security strategy. That's the most important budget and process and decision. And that's for us, of course, the key, the growth area and what we want to help our customers do, right? Yeah. And that's also the way we think about it. We want to grow with the value. Wherever your data and workloads are, we want to make sure that we protect them. And that's how we also want to price it.
I mean, I know that many of you will understand that there had been a rather extraordinary bid from Google for Wiz, unsurprisingly, because what you're telling us now is ultimately as this cloud scales, you are going to be more and more integral. I know you can't talk about that particular offer and why you decided against it, but how closely are you having to work with the hyperscalers, with the cloud offerings? Are you automatically sort of seamlessly being sold alongside, or are you being asked by a Bloomberg, by a company that is more direct?
So, first of all, for me personally, it is humbling to see the teams, security teams that we get to work with and actually help. I mean, we're just a 4-year-old company, and we have the chance to secure the most amazing companies in the world.
Can you say which clients you have that are the pinups everyone will know?
So many of them I cannot say, but we are working with as you know, with 45% of the Fortune 100, right? But also the biggest tech companies, like from Salesforce, to financials. This is for us something unbelievable because it's across any industry, right?
Because everyone's gone to the cloud, so.
Exactly. It can be a huge financial. It can be a tech company,
a retailer.
It can be a retailer or healthcare, right? And of course, it's very important for us to work very closely with the cloud providers because as we can actually ensure, because it's all about making security embedded into the processes, making it easy, right? The more we can make it easy, it will be easier for the engineers to actually fix stuff. So for us, it's been a just unbelievable journey. And the way, for me, what makes me happy is that we go to a customer and we talk with them and we ask, okay, are we actually bringing you value? And when I hear that, yes, we found critical issues, the developers are actually fixing them, they're happy with and they trust the platform, that's what makes us feel that we are actually bringing value to the world, changing the industry, and actually making everyone expect now from security vendors to be friendly to users, to give very precise explanation, to be focusing on what's effectively in risk, and not just give me an endless list of problems to solve, because then it's not useful.
Yeah. What is interesting is you're talking how important that the journey doesn't end when you as an entrepreneur sell into Microsoft was the example. But you're now doing the reverse. You're buying a load of different other companies. So how do you think about the purchase process and how you bring them into this wholly revolutionizing way of thinking about cyber, but also about your culture being so unique?
Acquisitions for a company is a scary process, right? You pay a lot of money, right? You bring a team that didn't grow with you, and you don't know a minute after you do the acquisition what's going to happen. It's not an easy process to do. But more than that, I think that you want to sell a product that makes sense to customers. And many times in acquisitions, what happens, and we see it a lot in our industry, is that, okay, they just take the product, they take another product, they put them together, and then you just get two products. It's not one product, it's just two, right? And it will always be like that.
But they're complementary.
It's exactly so. But what happens in the long term is that it's 2, and then you do another acquisition. It's 3, it's 5, but it's not one product, right? So we've taken a different approach in Wiz, and we just announced both an acquisition of DAZ, which is an AppSec company, but also another very exciting announcement was that we launched Wiz Defend, which is based on Gem acquisition that we done 6 months ago. Now, what is exciting here is that we have decided that when we acquire a company, we are not going to just take the existing product. We're taking the long run, but again, we've done it in 6 months, so it's the long run, but we move in the Wiz space, which is to rebuild the entire product on top of Wiz platform, right? So we are not trying to actually say, okay, let's move faster and just put a glue around it. No, we're rebuilding it because we believe that in the long term, the value that customers will get when it's a really one single platform, right, is not unmatched. And that's what we've done with Gem. That's what we're going to do with DAZ. And we had another acquisition before, which was Raft for code. So really, it's proven itself. So acquisitions are a great way to accelerate. But if you think about the customer in the long term, if you just take products and try to glue them, that's not going to be a solution. So it's all about, so you think, okay, so what am I acquiring if I have to rebuild everything? So as I said before, it's all about people and trust, right? So everything is about people and trust. So we're looking for the teams that actually...
acqui-hiring, basically.
It's not acqui-hiring because people that actually work together, that build a technology, for them, if I'm an engineer and I build something, right? If I tell you, oh, can you rebuild it now?
Even better.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be happy. Engineers love to rebuild. And to be honest, in many technology companies, sometimes you run so fast that you never rebuild, and then you just do patches and patches and patches. So when we go to an acquisition and say, okay, now you will have to rebuild it very fast, okay? But take everything you learned that you've done mistakes when you built it first and now build it again, but for scale, right? I mean, they're very happy. And we don't see this as acqui-hire because taking an engineer that already built something and the team already operates and just to rebuild it again, that actually is a very healthy process.
Yeah.
So it's just a different way to think about it.
Okay. There's some really interesting lessons to be learned from the way that you're thinking about culture, first principles, what you're offering, and the M&A side. What is therefore ultimately the vision for you? Is it we're in this year of buying more companies, adding, what is it that you want to add on? What is it that you ultimately want to be to the world?
So, I mean, the same principles will remain, right? And by the way, I always say, like a startup, it's it doesn't actually start from the idea. It starts from the team, because it's all about people and trust, right? I mean, we're the same team of founders that have worked. We've known each other since 2001, right? So it's like since I was like 17.
How did you meet? You were all
I was
learning
just 17.
together?
Yeah, we went to the university together. We joined the army together. It was, I mean, it's about people and it's about trust. Now, the goal of Wiz is to just when we look at cloud, right? Cloud keeps growing. The technologies, they just keep expanding. And now it's AI, it's data, but the goal doesn't change. I need to be there, empower the security team, as everyone now become developer, right? And help them become this assistant that tells everyone exactly what they need to do, because the security team cannot be there all the time, right? So think about this all-knowing entity that works with every engineer and every builder in the company that tells them what they need to do, right? All the time, whereas the security team basically is the one that looks at everything and, monitors. I would even compare that to maybe something completely different, which is FinOps. FinOps, that's what they do, right? FinOps monitor finance, right? And security teams actually should monitor security, but who owns security? The people, right? So we give the power back to the people. But the point is that as cloud grows, this is basically covering everything, It's everything in the company is in the cloud, and our goal is to grow with the cloud, grow with the technologies, but keep giving this ability to empower to the security team. So the company can move in the speed of cloud, right? But still make sure that everything is still okay. Okay.
Relatively bold. I like that. I'm going to start asking the audience to raise their hands for questions, if anyone has it. Yeah, immediately. Do we have a roving mic, or should we just project our voices? Yes, here, Ariel's here with the mic. So just this gentleman here, if you could introduce, oh, no, she's getting the infrastructure, building it as we speak. Thank you very much. So if you could just quickly introduce yourself and make a brief question, not points, please.
Hi, my name is John from Hotwire Global. Question about your long view. If I was going to start a company today, why would I hire a security team?
Wow. So, I mean, if you compare that to what I talked about FinOps, I think it's a good example, right? I mean, if everyone owned their budgets, why do you need FinOps, right? So the answer is that as a company, although the central IT and central security teams are changing their role, right? You're right. I mean, in the past, if I needed to get a rec, get a VM, I would have to go to the IT team and ask them. I don't need to do that anymore. But still, the central governance body has a goal, and it is to govern, right? So security team needs to do two things. One is to govern, right? Because it's all about, it's not finance, it's not budget of actual finance. You're governing risk, right? But it's still a budget. Someone has to manage the budget of risk. It's like the CFO, but for risk. Because if we are going over our budget in security, that's not bad. It's not good, right? What it means that you're over risking yourself. So eventually it's the same. The other aspect that security has is that you need people that really understand attacks, right? So the security team goal is to manage the risk budget, right? And always try to penetrate the company and find if there's anyone that is completely missing out and there's a huge vulnerability, right? So if you have both areas, then everything else,
you're doing that.
Yeah, you're right. We help, but that's the point, right?
Yeah.
We empower the security team to become this governance body, but we don't expect everyone to do everything on their own.
Great question. Another question from the audience? I had a few questions. Yeah, there's a gentleman with a hat. Scorpion guy there.
Oh, hi. I'm Elias from AA Monkey. Amazing job you've done. I'm really impressed. I actually use Wiz with my clients, and there are so many protocols that you follow. I don't know, like SOC 2, FedRAMP, sometimes we need to apply, or HIPAA, or things. And of course, I don't give those certifications to my client, but I use Wiz like, hey, we did everything fine. Now you go and get your certification, but I built everything good. Do you guys see in the future maybe implementing like your own sort of certifications? Because at the end of the day, something is either secure or it's not secure. Like you don't need to have like millions of different types of certifications. And I know that Wiz is only read only when you do the IAM and you put like, could you guys in the future are exploring maybe opening like a right part where Wiz actually fixes the things for you immediately, and then you go back to read only, and then okay, it's secure, but you already solved everything, and this is certified by Wiz, and it's only like one universal certification, and everything is like blip.
Got a product guy here for you.
Yeah, no, I think we need a. So I love it. Yeah, I mean, so actually,
Can I have the last little part of
yes, but let me answer the two because I'll forget the three, unless you don't want me to answer all of them. So you asked two questions, right? So on certification, right? You're right. There is a lot of different compliance frameworks today, and there is actually a huge teams called GRC, and all of the things that GRC team does is to basically they have to think about translate between a million types of compliance. It's the same question, but every compliance has different answers, right? So you're right. Wiz tries to change the game in that. And I would even say that if you ask me about the world of compliance, we are hoping that this is a dream. It's my dream. We're not there yet. To change the way compliance is done. Because if you recall, when we talked about the auditor for the building, it comes once a year. That's actually what's happened in compliance. You actually come once a year and you do compliance. It's a manual process. Right? It doesn't make any sense to do a manual process once a year in a world that everything in a year from now will completely be different. Like we believe that compliance should be continuous, right? Continuous compliance means that if I am able to scan you all the time, I give you the score, right? So I believe that you should expose the score that you get from Wiz all the time, right? So everyone see that you are okay all the time.
It's like a trust pilot.
Yes, but it doesn't exist today. Today, trust is just based on a manual audit. Doesn't make any sense anymore. Trust should be automated, continuous trust. So I mean, what you say is my dream. It's not going to be easy because this is like a huge change. It's an even bigger change than Wiz because it's not internal, it's external. And companies don't like to expose their current state all the time because it's actually, I mean,
Ugly.
it's the truth. Yeah. But I think the sun, you know, it's good to expose the reality to the sun. And today it's not the case. So definitely our goal. On the second thing, you asked about remediation. So you're right. Part of the reason we did the DAS acquisition was for Wiz to go from cloud to code. Why are we going into code? So that's exactly the reason, right? We believe that if we understand the problems, our next big step to help companies is to actually help them fix the problems automatically, even create pull requests, find the owner, find the code, find the fix. And
then do it. Then generate it.
Generate it, still have the person click on it before it actually goes to production. But yes, you're right, like fixing the loop. That would be the goal. So eventually, we is able to find all the vulnerabilities and fix them. So the only thing the developer needs to do is just click approve from time to time.
Yes, and the other part is that I remember these old antivirus. They basically were like a huge databases of potential risk, and then they would do the matching and stuff. And I assume that Wiz was created with some sort of AI. I don't know if you guys trained your own model with one of those databases or something, but for me, it's interesting if you could talk a little bit of how do you guys detect those risks and all that, and if you guys actually use AI, because I actually don't know.
So when we talk about risks, right, it's very simple. There is eventually attackers in the world, right? They use, in most cases, known attacks. And there is a list of known attacks. So if you ask a red team member, so someone who really knows, you know, how to attack something, he probably knows about all of the known attacks in his field of expertise, right? So like the way we see the problem and the way we build our risk profile, again, it sounds simple. We have threat intelligence teams that are focused on cloud, right? Probably the best team in the world today that is focused on threat intelligence in cloud, right? And we continuously look for attacks and we analyze them. But then, unlike most tools before us that looked only at like actually detecting the attacks, we also say, can we prevent the attack? So whenever we find an attack, we ask two questions. How can we find the attacker? What methods the attacker used to enter? And how can we prevent the attacker to get in? Because Wiz both analyzes actual activities, but also potential risk, we can actually give you full protection. It's like detecting the attacker, but also detecting and how this attacker usually uses, if you have this kind of lock, that's not good because they know how to unlock this kind of door, right? So you better fix that, right? So we combine this threat intelligence in cloud to be able to both detect attackers, but also if I see this attacker is active in your environment, oh my God, this attacker knows how to open this door. You should really, really, really quickly change the lock here, right? And that's how we want to close the loop, by using threat intelligence to motivate actual actions.
What actually is threat intelligence?
The core of everything we do, and the core of everything you should do in security, is basically understanding the problem, right? The problem is understanding attacks, and threat intelligence allows us, especially now as we see huge portions of the cloud, right, to understand what attackers are doing right now. Because, you know, you can have 1 million vulnerabilities, but attackers right now maybe are using 10 of them. 10 of them are actually being used, right? So if you know that, then you can focus on that. So threat intelligence is a game changer.
You're surveying, basically, constantly.
Yes, because you know, and then you know exactly what is important to fix right now. The attackers, that's how they operate. They have like scan tools that scan the internet. They have a specific set of vulnerabilities that they know, and they try them all the time. They spray around. So if you know how to fix them, you probably solved most of your risk.
Great questions. Probably have time for one more from the audience. Yes, just stand here. We'll get you a mic. 1 second. Did you still have the mic on?
You've mentioned that you're working with investors from Microsoft as well, and you had a prior startup, Adalom, that they acquired, and they have their own cloud security systems in place. How is that a challenge to you and your team today in protecting your current IP as well as coming up with new ideas that have got some follow-up from the past?
It's a good question. I mean, the security industry is small, right? And as you said, like we built cloud security before, but in reality, what we've done and what we do here is different, right? Like we started from securing cloud applications, which is what we call SaaS security. What we do in Wiz, the focus in Wiz is actually securing public cloud, right? So it is similar, right? Definitely, right? And the thing, I think for us, the fact we have a lot of experience with different types of security teams, security products, is a huge benefit, right? But eventually, the problem we're trying to solve now is completely different. We're trying to take the experience we have with what worked in Adalom, right? Which was securing Salesforce and Office 365 and others, and say, okay, what did we learn from that to be able to build a much, much better security for cloud?
So, little crossover, but not enough. Wow, I've learned so much from Ami, and it has been a joy having you here. Thank you for being the most interesting person around cyber in a long time, other than your co-founder that we've had on the show.
So who's better?
Very equal. I'm going to have to do all four co-founders to be able to really be able to there's no hierarchy, you see.
Okay.
There's no. But I really appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. Please do give it up for Ami.